This is the DRF Players Podcast. Here are your hosts, Peter Thomas Fornatel and Jonathan Kinchin.
Hello and welcome to the DRF Players Podcast. This is show 353, Friday, July 27th, 2018 edition. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatel, back with you from the little house on the east side. Once again, trip down to the city, mission accomplished, back up here. Happy to be here on what looks like a nice, if humid, and maybe a thunder shower is going to blow through, but hopefully nothing too bad, Friday here at the spa. I am joined not from the bedroom upstairs this time, from the little house on the east side, but not from the planet Texas either. Where in the world are you, Jonathan Kinchin?
I had to swing through horse country, Lex Vegas, to check on some things, but I'm heading out to Del Mar first thing in the morning to try to continue my streak of Southern California contest success with my Santa Anita win. It's been elusive for me getting a win down there, so hopefully I can try to string together a few. But it's always a fun contest. I think they put us in the Seabiscuit room. It's like on the 6th floor. It's one of the best views in racing, especially from a contest standpoint. So always excited to do that. But there is a negative. They got like these plastic chairs that aren't very comfortable. But other than that, the rest of it's great.
What a complainer. That voice you hear, of course, is the people's champion, Jonathan Kinchin. JK, great to have you on the show and get an update on your peripatetic lifestyle. I think I reported that differently. I think I said it was a different room that they were in when I wrote about it, something I picked up off the Del Mar website. Are you sure about that Seabiscuit room?
I think that our buddy Chris Barr, the contest director there, sent out an agenda or whatever that said, maybe I'm making that up. I mean, I can confirm it while we're talking. I can do that thing where I talk about a lot of things that don't really mean anything, and it allows me to either Google.
I've heard it's in the Sky Room, so I just don't want people going to the wrong place. But Chris Barr has himself wired on straight. He'll be able to tell you if you have any doubt about where to go. It's supposed to be. No, it says that
the challenge is held in a luxurious Seabiscuit and Native Diver Sky Room. So we were both right. No mistake, Jar.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often where we can both be right, unless it's a dead heat situation. Hey, let's start with the bummer news of the week. I don't think we need to spend too much time on it. We talked about it on the show. I'm glad we did have that conversation with Scott Carson on Tuesday about Justify, because we almost might have missed the drama completely had we not talked about it. But the news coming down that his racing career is, in fact, over. I think you and I both, JK, are of the belief that it's nice for a little bit of time to pass before we try to get into historical evaluations of horses. But here we have this runner, Justify, retiring undefeated as a Triple Crown winner. Where does he stand for you? Are we talking about a first ballot Hall of Famer here, I presume?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you do something that only 14 or whatever it is, 13 other animals have done, I think that's Hall of Fame material.
Who's the 13th?
Is he the 13th?
Yeah.
Okay, that's 13. So, first of all, if you do something that 13 other animals do, then that's definitely Hall of Fame material. If you break a curse that's been around for over 100 years and do something that no animal has done in over 100 years, breaking the Apollo curse, that's Hall of Fame material. If you go undefeated, that's Hall of Fame material. There's a lot of things about his career that he did. I think that he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a special animal, special horse, and I think we all wish we could have seen more. But I don't fault the connections at all. It's a business. As a handicapper, as a horse player, when I go to the window, like there's nothing charitable about it. Like I'm trying to make money. And so I'm going to make decisions that are going to help with my bottom line, and owners do the same thing. And I'm not going to knock them for that, as if they owe me or the sport or racing in general. They owe us more. That's going to cause them to make poor financial decisions for their business. It's a business, and even beyond that, you got to put the health of the horse first.
Yeah, that's That's the point that I'd make. This isn't unless no, there's no way that it's anything other than face value. We know the horse had a legitimate issue. Filling can be nothing. It can be the result of something underlying. I think for it to have taken as long as it has to bounce back where they missed their window, that's enough to me. Some suspensory issue or whatever it is. Why would you even question that? I don't get it.
I think that my point. I think my point, or not, that I guess what I'm making in that what we're talking about is that, like, if the horse was going to stand for $10,000, then it feels as if they wouldn't have pulled the plug so fast. Like, maybe they would have waited, but I'm not mad at them for making for the financial decision, the financial implications impacting their decisions. I'm fine with it. I think it agitates a lot of people that they're being whisked away to stud at a young age. And that they, it'd be great if they were to come back, but I'm cool with the idea that it's a business and you can't make those types of risks, can't take those types of risks from a financial standpoint. If he was going to stand for 10,000, he'd be back. PTF, like he
or as a racehorse, and they'd be worrying about a 4-year-old campaign. But I don't think anybody for a second ever thought we were going to be looking at a 4-year-old campaign for this horse, with the possible exception of a Pegasus run. He was always standing for a long time with his resume. He was always standing at stud at 4. So I don't really understand the being upset about it. I do think it does impact to some degree how he might be viewed historically vis-a-vis a horse like American Pharoah. But my takeaway, rather than being upset about what we didn't see from Justify, is to just make me appreciate American Pharoah that much more for all he was able to do for us in the Haskell. Obviously, the Travers was a painful race for me and you, but one of the most memorable I've ever seen. And then for him to get to deliver that tour de force performance in the Breeders' Cup and complete that Grand Slam, it just makes me think about how lucky we were in 2015. And unfortunately, when it comes to Justify and how great he really could have been, first ballot Hall of Famer for me, but it's going to be a lot tougher to put him up there in that, I guess it's a little silly. When I'm saying first ballot Hall of Famer, there's still an upper echelon of first ballot Hall of Famers, and maybe I hesitate to put him there, but, obviously a great horse who did a lot for the sport in his time on the racetrack, and we'll be sad not to have him back. That's for certain.
Yeah, no, I think that moments of greatness in sports are great because of the difficulty in which they are to accomplish, right? And so it's like, the things that Pharoah did were great because of how hard it is for it to happen. The things that Justify did are great because of how hard it is to happen, and the ups and downs of not being able to see that moment, like not being able to have that moment of seeing Justify running the Classic is what I think is what probably bums a lot of people out. What I will say, and Twitter is the perfect place for this to happen. I actually heard, I don't know if I heard it. I heard it yesterday on ESPN. Someone say thumb muscles. It's like my new thing for like keyboard, a Twitter tough guy or a keyboard courage. Is their thumb muscles were a little bit. People's thumb muscles get a little bit strong when it's time to like nitpick at the things that Justify didn't do, and that annoys me. Like, oh, he never really ran that fast, or oh, he didn't really beat older horses. I just don't. To me, like some of that stuff is like, I don't.
I'm not going to lie. It matters to me in terms of my ultimate historical evaluation of him. It matters that he didn't ever really run a complete race, fast, middle, early, late. It matters to me that he, never ran against older horses, but it doesn't take away from what he did do. It just it doesn't give me the satisfaction that we got from American Pharoah. So I don't really think it's saying anything that different.
But it's like this, it's our sports culture's obsession with lists, right? And I don't I personally don't share that desire or passion for lists. Like I can tell you the 10 greatest horses I've seen, and I can never do it in any particular order. I just know they're like the 10 greatest horses I've seen, and I don't really care who is the best. That's just my personal opinion.
You and I are sick enough that we don't want to spend a lot of mental energy on lists that aren't going to like generate us money. If there was some way we could like bet on this, I'm sure we would probably be more interested. But I think you're right. I don't think in our private lives we would have had this conversation. We haven't talked about this yet. This is longer than we would have talked about it in life because we'd already be onto something that mattered in terms of making us money. But when you do things like host a podcast, especially a podcast that has been absolutely blessed to have 2 Triple Crown winners since it started, I do think it's a worthy conversation to have for the 15 minutes we're having it today. But I'm kind of with you. I don't really like academic conversations that can't be settled on the racetrack. But I also get from a point of view of somebody who's written a little bit of history, not with racing, but I've worked on a couple of baseball history books. And the idea of like, what would you, if you wanted to look at horses across generations, what kinds of things would you look at? And speed figures are a thing that you would look at, and quality and depth of competition, facing olders, et cetera, are things you would look at. So I have some sympathy. For that point of view. I just think to say that you wouldn't, to say that the horse wasn't great is crazy to me. Only other thing I would nitpick, 2 things I'll nitpick what you said. First is the whole problem with thumb muscles. Like, that would have worked a lot better if BlackBerry won the war. But in an Apple world, JK, is it really, how often are you using your thumbs on that thing?
Ooh, I get my thumb muscles going sometimes too now. It was actually, I heard it was about like the Kevin Durant and CJ McCollum argument. I don't know if you've seen it, but
no.
CJ was like making fun of Kevin for leaving to go to Golden State and anyways. So my thumb muscles get rolling sometimes. They started to get warmed up. I don't see how you. I'm pantomiming it now with my phone. I'm more of an index finger guy. That's all I'm saying. You text on your phone with your index fingers?
Don't I? Let me
if you do, then we can't be friends anymore.
No, I guess it is thumbs. I never thought about it. It is the same as BlackBerry. You're right. Sometimes I'll hunt and peck a little. The other thing I have an issue with is I do, and maybe this is just me being cranky, I give 0 extra credit for the Apollo thing. That was just going to go down. And had he not done everything else that he did, had he lost the Preakness and not won another race, it wouldn't be like making a Hall of Fame case on a horse.
Oh, no. It's just a cool accomplishment. It's just a thing to plop down on the resume, but doesn't make any difference.
How are your meets been going so far? You've been enjoying Saratoga and Del Mar?
Yeah, I took it was an everyday Saratoga guy from while I was there from Friday to Sunday. And then when I got back to Austin, I just kind of unplugged for a second. It was kind of a frustrating opening weekend. We were alive to some scores and got beat, so that was agitating. It usually takes me a couple of days to kind of to clear my head on some of those things. And then plus I knew the Del Mar contest was coming up, which is obviously going to be pretty intense. It's a $8,000 buy-in. I have 2 entries. And so I wanted to be able to kind of come in clean and fresh and for that. So I didn't really, and plus I also don't like, I like to avoid the sloppy track thing if I don't have to do it. And with the weather stuff, it was another reason just to kind of take a little bit of a step back. So I'll probably get involved a little bit today. There's a carryover at Del Mar. I'll probably look at, see if I have some opinions, and then I'll be firing away at Del Mar tomorrow and Sunday.
Let's talk about Del Mar a little bit. We also have some listener questions I'm going to try to squeeze in. A little later in the show, we got a special guest, Michael Behrens from myracehorse.com, talking about this new type of partnership, fractional or micro ownership in horses, you might call it. Could be something very interesting for people who listen to this show. But let's start by talking a little bit about this Saturday card at Del Mar. I know there's a horse you were interested in I think it's the very first race.
Yeah, no, it's just it's not like probably not well, it could be a great betting opportunity, but want to see what the workout report looks like. But there's a American Pharaoh half, a tap it colt by the same dam that American Pharaoh was by. I think Little Princess Emma chasing yesterday a 2-year-old filly for Bob Baffert, who's debuting with Mike Smith, drawn outside. Horse will obviously take a lot of money. It's one of those situations where if the workout report is not glowing, it's a great opportunity to try to beat a horse that's obviously going to be favored just on name and reputation and connections and breeding and whatever. So it's definitely one that I would take a look at, especially if you're looking to take a chance in the early pick 5. It's a horse that'll be on everybody's tickets. If you can somehow get cute and beat her, there's an opportunity there. So I like to look for moments like that where you can find the public making mistakes.
I want to make an addition to the bingo card. And actually, this might tie into the mistake jar, too. We might need a special $100 coin to drop into the mistake jar anytime. And we talked about this at length at our voiceover session the other day, so you'll know where I'm going with this, JK. Anytime either one of us, but it's going to be you, says, yeah, no. We've gotten 2 yeah, no's already this show, JK. We gotta banish.
Oh, come on. I'm telling you, it makes sense. Because what I'm saying is, yes, Pete, you're right, but no, I think. You know what I thought you were going to do? I thought you were going to say that we're going to have to put a special $100 coin in when someone calls he, she.
That's actually should be $100 to horse organization anytime that gets made. I made one session because of our old nemesis in that regard, Ashley Loves Sugar. I pride myself on not making those mistakes.
And what's funny is when we get to race 7 today at Del Mar, we talk about that. Ashley Loves Sugar is in, so hopefully I shouldn't have told you. I might have got you. I might have got you again.
All right, let's go right to that race, actually, as long as we're talking about it. I haven't looked at Del Mar, but obviously you're playing in this contest, so you're not going to be like giving away the store necessarily. But what did you have a selection to give out for that one?
No, I just think it's interesting that Kent DeSormo is back on What a View. Kent was kind of the one who kind of brought What a View to the dance. And
explain what you mean. People might not remember that. This is ancient.
Yeah, well, he won on What a View at Del Mar. Actually, they broke the maiden, and then they came back in the allowance race and didn't go so well. And I think it was the November 7th race was the famous one where Kent kind of stood up early and got nailed. And then he got taken off. Then he came back on. And then Kent was there for his the Grade 1 win, the Frank Kilrow Mile. And so Kent was a big part of this horse's success early in the races that he was running in. And then it made a little bit of a switch to Tyler Bays. And now we're getting Kent back up. I think Kent rides the horse really well forwardly. And Kent can be really dangerous on the turf. He's drawn inside, so there's one way to go there. So I think that he could be really tough here. And then Ashley Loves Sugar, who ran well May 20th in Santa Anita when we filmed the show and was making a run late. And the classy type should have some pace to run into with What a View in there. So those are the two that caught my attention the most. And then the old trusty Soy Fett. I just like to applaud every time I see his name in the entry box as a 10-year-old gelding who's still laying it down. He's on a two race win streak, so you always want to respect a horse like that.
Such a cool horse. Also in that race, obviously, from the World Horse Players Tour event. Be watching a lot of that. Well, I guess everybody else in the world gets to watch it once or maybe twice. We've watched it about 17,000 times. But how game Soy Fett is in the lane and Ashley Loves Sugar flying late on the outside. Let's move on to the final race at Del Mar we want to talk about, the Bing Crosby. JK, what'd you come up with it there?
This is like a super cool race. I feel like there's horses in here that I have singled. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 horses. No, 7. 7 horses in here that I have singled at one point in their career or in my life.
It's amazing.
I've singled American Pastime before. I thought he had a shot in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I've singled Roy H. I've singled American Anthem. I've singled Ransom the Moon. I've singled St. Joe Bay. Edwards Going Left. and Stall Walking Dude. How cool of a race is that, right?
That's awesome. Who do you like on the running on Saturday?
You know, I tell you what, Stall Walking Dude, he hasn't really been himself as late. But I think as an older horse, as an 8-year-old, this change of scenery could wake him up a little bit. Del Mar has been so far for the meet is treated, outside kind of swooping closers fairly. So Stall Walking Dude drawn outside as a late running closer should have all the opportunity. There's a bunch of speed in here. A lot of forwardly placed horses with, not so much American Pastime, but Roy H. and American Anthem and St. Joe Bay has shown speed. Edwards Going Left has shown speed in the past. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, in the 6 furlong grade 1 that he'll get some pace to run into. I'm going to use a little bit. I'm going to try to find the speed of the speed or the classiest of the speeds. And going 6, I think that's probably going to be Roy H. But then I'm probably going to use American Pastime, Ransom the Moon, and Stall Walking Dude. In a contest format, I'd try to use Stall Walking Dude or Ransom the Moon. Just try to get alive to those horses, maybe play some doubles in and out. I need to check out the races before or after and see where I can get there. But I think it's going to be a really fun race. I'm glad I'm going to be there live for that one.
We got a question from listener Michael Salakis, JK, and I think this is a good time to ask it about how you choose to manage your bets in a live bankroll contest. He correctly says it probably depends on the specific rules of the tournament. But he was just curious to get any general thoughts you had on that issue.
Yeah, one of the main things is I think a lot of guys do that I don't is if I place a wager, it is typically never, even if it's just a minimum, I'm never the bet to show just to get a minimum out of the way guy. If I'm going to place money down, I'm going to try to at least make something. I'm going to try to pick up some chips along the way. I don't want to just risk my $500 minimum bet on a show horse and make $27. I'll take some really non-aggressive approaches to a race and just try to, like I said, maybe double my money or, pick up, if it's a $500 minimum, pick up $300 or $400, just kind of take some really soft approaches. And then I try to find that one strong opinion where I really fire hard. We talk about it all the time. I think you're in racing, you're going to be wrong a lot more than you're right. And so why try to spread out those opportunities? I just want to find that one opportunity where I think I'm going to be right and try to take a large stand there. And the reason that I think that works is because in contests with the added prize, with the prize pool money, you can effectively reduce the takeout of that one large wager that you're trying to make, that one large opinion you're trying to bet. You can take away either the takeout or you can change the odds. If the proposition that you're wagering on is a 3-1 proposition, but if it's going to help you win the contest, you're going to win another $60,000. It suddenly has become a 3-1 proposition that's paying 8-1. And those are positive expectations. And I try to look for those opportunities.
That's what it's all about. And I think you point out something really smart that people don't talk about that much that might be a good subject of a future column. There are a lot of different ways to get through your minimums. It doesn't just have to be the bet to show. Personally, I have no problem if you've got the right situation, betting to show to get a minimum out of the way. But there's probably times where the show bet model won't fit, where by Dutching horses to win, potentially betting 2 or 3 horses to win, or doing some sort of Dutch configuration in an exacta where you're not going to be taking on much risk and you have a chance to just also sort of get that minimum out of the way. And maybe, just maybe, if you have an anti-opinion on one of the favorites in that race, double up and bank yourself essentially the money to then take a shot on another minimum where you preserve your bankroll. So I think that's a really good thing. We've never really talked about that. You don't disagree with the idea of preserving bankroll. You just have a different way of doing it. And I think a lot of people, and this probably depends on what bankroll you're starting with and the specifics of the contest very much, but I feel like there used to be a trend of people just bankroll protecting, get to the last race, and then in the last race, you know what you need. You have a much better idea of what you need to get whatever your goal is going all in there. I get that, and that can work. But for me, and I think the way that the trend in players has evolved, and this I'll ask you for your comment on, JK, it's not just about get to the last race no matter what that last race is, because what if you don't have an opinion in the last race? And you know there are going to be a bunch of people firing all in the last race, so it might be harder to get the full leverage out of going all in. Why not just try to find the spot where you have the strongest opinion, whether it's the 5th, the 7th, the 8th, or the 9th, and go all in there? But that idea of preserve, try to kill, I think is super important for live bankroll players to consider. You will see occasionally somebody who just bets their minimums and wins the contest, but generally speaking, I think those players are bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that the bankroll preservation is an important part of the contest scene. I will never understand why someone has, there's a 10-race card and a guy has an opinion in the 8th race and he doesn't bet that opinion and waits to the last to bet all of his bankroll on a race that he thinks that he wants to just mathematically find out what he needs to win. I'd rather just bet it in the 8th and go on with it. I either hit my opinion in the 8th with all of my bankroll, and then I've never been that wait to the last minute and let's just see what happens. I don't understand that.
Well, I'll just try to explain it. You have more valuable information because in the 5th race you don't know how aggressive you need to be. By the last race you do. So if I had equally strong opinions in the 5th and the last, I'd want to save some money so I could at least take a shot in the last at cold cocking something and getting to the front. You don't respect that idea at all?
I don't know if respect would be the right word. I respect the idea and the concept, but as a selection-based handicapper who takes pride in trying to bet smart, I'd rather just do it in a spot where I have an opinion.
Yeah.
Rather than I mean, I get it. I don't want to save my bankroll for a maiden 40 on the turf and then find the horse or the bet that's going to pay 7-1 to turn my $5,000 bankroll into 35 so I can win the contest. Like I just would rather make my move blindly early and then reevaluate in the last. I'd rather try to get to 20 if the target's 35, I'd rather try to get to 20 with my opinion in the 8th race and then figure out a way to pick up another 15,000 rather than trying in that last race than trying to figure out how I'm going to make 40,000 on a race I don't have an opinion in.
It definitely all depends on a lot of other factors. The number one being, as you're pointing out, where your real opinion is. But I do think there's some intelligence to giving a bit of credence to that last race, assuming all other things are equal, because you just have more information. But I mean, I don't think we're really disagreeing, just looking at the issue from two different perspectives. And hopefully that information will help Michael, who had a close call in his first live bank contest and is looking to do a bit more. All right, JK, we're about halfway through the show. I say we got some other good questions, but I say we save those because we have Michael Behrens coming in here in about 15 minutes, and we've got these 4 races at Saratoga to talk about, graded stakes. Let's move on to the graded stakes at Saratoga, starting off with one that will go as race 7, 4:25 Eastern, grade 3 Amsterdam, key prep for the H. Allen Jerkins on the Travers undercard most years. You have a thought in here?
I have a thought. I'm smiling ear to ear right now because yesterday on Out of the Gate when I filmed it, I said the Amsterdam's a prep for the H. Allen Jerkins. I got it right because I usually screw that up.
Once everybody out there, put your device down and give JK a round of applause.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I really like Promises Fulfilled here. He's one of those situations where Promises Fulfilled. I was kind of against the Woody Stevens. I thought that the Fountain of Youth, the Florida Derby, and the Kentucky Derby, the ability to try to get this horse to stretch out that speed to those 2-turn distances was going to backfire when they tried to cut the horse back to 7. It was going to be just too sharp, too much, too fast, and the horse ran huge pace figures. It was a fast pace, and the horse really, really ran well. I'm a Dale Romans fan forever. I think this horse is set to run a really good race in here. If it's not going to be him, I feel like it has to be Engage. And so those are the two that I'm going to focus the majority of my play on, with most of it going through Promises Fulfilled, just on that, the speed and fade, but he didn't really fade. Speed and hold, best of speed in a duel, and now he cuts back to 6.5 with some time to kind of recover. I think he could be extremely tough. World of Trouble is going to take a lot of money with all the service buzz that's been going on with the percentages that he's been running in. I liked him in the Woody Stevens. He didn't run particularly bad. He was right there in the mix. So I think that he's one that could be dangerous, drawn outside. But it feels as if they get into a duel again, World of Trouble and Promises Fulfilled, I feel like Promises Fulfilled will probably be the one that would hang on, the most likely one to hang on, with Engage being a likely winner if they happen to hook up.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very rare case where I actually think you're crazy with your pick here. You've got not only the 6 to duel, but you've also got one-way speed with some pretty rock-solid pace figures in Old Time Revival. I mean, this is a 3-horse duel for sure. This is 3 horses who have to get to the lead to get there. Unless one of them breaks slowly, I don't think Promises Fulfilled has any shot of doing, maybe third, maybe best of speed, like you said, and holding on. But doesn't Engage have to come by and beat these horses? I'm surprised you're giving him that much count. What am I missing?
Well, I mean, Engage barely got by Promise Fulfilled last time. And Promise Fulfilled gave him the huge setup. They were going 7, now they're going a little bit shorter. So I think that's an advantageous trip for, it's probably better for Promise Fulfilled than it is for Engage. And I don't want to say Engage got a setup last time, but Engage definitely had a more advantageous trip than Promise Fulfilled had.
But he's going to even get a better one this time.
If I didn't think Engage was a likely winner, I would head to head you right now and get back on the good side of things. But I don't want to give you any confidence. You're already riding high.
Barely beat him. The race I saw, you beat him by like 3.
No. But I'm saying not barely. Yes, fair. I didn't mean barely. I'm saying that he had a setup. He sat off of him and ran by him.
But he's going to have a setup again, and like I said, probably a better one. All right.
I don't want to give you any more confidence. I feel like you're riding high for these you're off the track.
No, I don't even count them really. I don't even count. I think to crow about being right about Justify retiring that's like blood money type thing. I'm not too worried.
I'm gonna flex.
I didn't want to hear from listeners being like, JK told me Promises Fulfilled was going to win. Hey, to your credit, you did also mention Engage as. Let's do it. We don't really disagree that much because you said Engage was your other horse. But I mean, hey, if you want to head-to-head those two, you can do that. You name the stakes, and I'll do it.
Let's do a head-to-head, but we have to find another head-to-head. It has to be a winner-take-all. You have to win both head-to-heads to claim your victory, or it's a wash.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
I'm sure we'll find another one. We'll go Promises Fulfilled here versus Engage. And then we'll find. I'm sure we'll find another one down in the next 3 straight. I
like it. Let's move on to the Vanderbilt. This is not a horse I would take in a head-to-head. I just have a lot of trouble with this race, and I was going to reluctantly, but I don't trust him enough to head-to-head him. I'll tell you right now. Take a look back at Warriors Club for just one more chance here, maybe. Horse that I think has a lot of talent. He was involved in the head-to-head we did in the Met. That proved to be a bridge too far. Then ends up chasing a slowish pace in the Kelly's Landing at Churchill. I'm willing to give one more shot, especially with the hot start that the Lucas Barn is off to at this meet. But this is not a race where I have a strong opinion at all, and this selection is more of a default type of pick. Did you have anything strong in here?
Imperial Hint for fun.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that he isn't. I'm not convinced he's quite the same, despite getting the job done last time. But show your work.
No, I think that he's the last two have been 6.5 sloppy, blah 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 blah. He's done his thing in 6.5. He's done it in some of his best races. Some of those really gaudy numbers are at 6 furlongs, and I think that he's in form. I think that they've obviously been pointing to this spot. He ran huge in the True North. That day was very, very gutsy performance, going 6.5, and I just think he's going to be tough. I mean, I guess we could head to head here. I'll take Imperial Hint. You could have the field, but
if we can't, I'd do that. If we can't find one better, I feel like that's a little. You're probably giving me a little too much. It's probably a little unfair on your end. So if we can find a truer head to head later, let's do that. But if not, we'll come back to this one. Yeah, and I don't. And it's a little disingenuous in that I wouldn't tell you people to like fade Imperial Hint off their pick tickets or anything. I do feel, though, like opposing him at even money would be a terrific value bet for me. So I will do that head to head if we can't find a better one. I
do think that an important part of my confidence in him is the draw. If Switzerland was outside of him, I would feel less bullish about his ability to I wouldn't say wins for fun. I think that because he's drawn outside of Switzerland, he's going to be able to kind of dictate what happens there. If it was the other way around, I think it would be a little bit more of a challenge for him.
Mr. Crow, a horse sure to attract a lot of attention based on those two massive Saratoga races, never run even close to as well anywhere else. I was thinking of probably trying to fade him based on current form. Did you have any? Because I think this is one might get bet down below that 8-1 of the morning line. Where did you stand with Mr. Crow?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the July 22nd race back in the day, I think that was probably a bias-aided performance with the number being as big as it was and him never really getting back to that number again. And then I think it's also important to notice that those two efforts, although they took place at Saratoga, they took place in the care of Todd Pletcher. Not that Ben Colebrook is not a good trainer, but I think that expecting, there's been a change. So to look back and just say, oh, easy math, he ran well at Saratoga, boom, boom, it's a changed situation.
Yes, I think we're in agreement on that. All right, we're in good shape here to continue going on through these Saratoga stakes. Let's go ahead to the 9th race. This one's not going to be fun for you, JK. You're going to have to relive some wagering pain when we talk about the Bowling Green with so many of these horses coming out of that Manhattan. That of course was a race that caught us both out, but you especially. This race was all that stood between you and winning the Belmont contest. How do you evaluate these horses today? And how about just a little advice as you go into your spiel about how to be objective when you're looking at the same group of horses coming out of a race that cost you a mega score?
Well, I'm going to quote our friend Travis Stone, the voice of the intro of the DRF Players podcast. Not the voice of the Kentucky Derby, the voice of the Players podcast.
I was going to say there's other things to say.
He's the voice.
He's on my seminar tomorrow. I'm going to set it up like I'm going to say voice of the Kentucky Derby, and I'm going to say voice of the intro of the DR Players podcast, and see if I can get him to kick me in the shins. Anyway, go ahead.
He tweeted yesterday, and it couldn't be more true. He said, I wake up in cold sweats thinking about how much money I've lost either betting on or betting against various horses in Saturday's Bowling Green. And I almost fell down and was like, amen, brother. Like this race is like, I look at it and I get like weird feelings. Money multiplier, the famous hang, last year in the Sword Dancer that helped Sadler's Joy get up, that helped us hit the pick 6. So there was joy there. High Happy obviously was involved in the spring quality race, and Sadler's Joy was probably best in that race and cost the tournament, like you mentioned. There's a lot of horses in here that can make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I think Sadler's Joy is the best horse in here, but the same thing always happens with him. It's like he's either too close, he's too far back, or he gets some weird trip, or he moves too early or moves too late. I am going to take a really strong stand that with Javier's second ride on the horse, to understand what he actually had underneath him and that he could have waited longer and he didn't have to make that aggressive middle move in the turn, that Julian wouldn't have made that mistake because he understands what he has underneath him. I think Javier won't make that mistake again. And I think Sadler's Joy will be extremely tough. He runs well at this racetrack on this turf course. I'm going to continue to fade High Happy. I don't even know why, but I'm just going to keep fading the horse. The only horse I'd be a little nervous about is Bigger Picture. I joked on out of the gate that I reiterated the joke we always make here, that you could put me and you in a horse suit and let Mike Baker train us to go long on the grass, and we'd probably win a grade 1. I respect Mike Maker and I respect Bigger Picture, so I'll use a little bit defensively. But I think Sadler's Joy is going to be tough in here. There's not a lot of speed, and in New York, when there's not a lot of speed, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find that horse that's going to be on the lead that wins. In most situations, they're inviting the best closer into the race, and without a question, it's Sadler's Joy.
He's a terrific horse. I do prefer High Happy between the two. I think I'd rather just oppose Imperial Hint if you'd allow me, rather than do this as the head-to-head, just because that's more likely. But if you twisted my arm, I'd do the High Happy Sadler's Joy, just because it is a turf race in New York. But I think the horse I want to talk about for at least a second is the sneaky Sadler's Joy was best in that race, I think, but a horse who ran a sneaky, really good race was Manitoulin. Very close to the early pace. You'll see those fractions coded red in your Timeform USPPs, and really didn't get beat all that much. Had the additional excuses of, like Sadler and some of the others, being incredibly wide. Also sort of hit the gate at the front of the race, maybe got lit up a little bit. Manitoulin's going to be a very big price, and I would not let beat you in your picks. So that's one I'll toss out there.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll try to pull it up before I have to bite my tongue. I'm pretty sure that Manitoulin came out of that race that Robert Bruce won, that Spring Quality also came out of. That race, the Fort Marcy, I think people were I think that race could turn out to be a key race with Robert Bruce. I think was a talented type, and I think he went off favored in the Manhattan. Spring Quality won the race. Manitoulin ran a good race, so I think there's a lot to that race. It makes total sense where you're coming from with that one.
All right, let's move on to the Jim Dandy. I don't think it'll take us very long, JK. I think it's time that the Curlin and the Jim Dandy became one race. What do you think?
Let's call it the Curlin Dandy and move on with it.
Who do you like in here?
I tell you, I can't wait to bet against Vino Rosso.
This could be our head-to-head, maybe. I'd take Rosso against this field.
Yeah, he's going to be overbet. I don't think he's really all that good. I just think he's just going to be terribly overbet. So absolutely,
I don't know if it's overbet though, because who in here can beat him? I agree. I'm not excited. I wouldn't be if you just told me 3 weeks ago, hey, what do you think about Vino Rosso in the Dandy? I would have said, yeah, he'll be a contender. I wouldn't have been excited. But then I look at this field and I'm ready to cut in line to take the even. So this should maybe be a part of our – maybe we have a four-legged head-to-head bonanza on this.
Oh, a bonanza, winner take all? Or majority – I guess the majority wins, right?
Yeah, exactly. If one of us beats the other 3 out of 4, I mean, that's a win. That's a win that can be bragged about.
Okay, but the problem is I do have one I'll take, but I kind of need 2. My choice here –
No, I was going to give you the whole field, dude.
Oh, no, I only want 2 horses.
Okay.
I want Sporting Chance and Tenfold.
Okay.
I like Sporting Chance. He ran huge in the Pat Day Mile, got a sloppy track at Pimlico, and just pretend it didn't happen. He's putting the blinkers on. Hopefully he doesn't take a right turn at some point during the stretch, but he probably won't. He probably won't because his nemesis isn't in here. I'm going to go blank on his nemesis name, the Dale Romans horse with
Free Drop Billy.
Free Drop Billy is not in here. So he probably won't go right. And like I said, he's got blinkers on. I think he's going to be tough in here. If I can get 8-1, that would make me very happy. I think Tenfold is another one that's a likely winner. But I do not like Vino Rosso, so I'll take those 2 versus Vino Rosso.
What is the case? Just out of curiosity, teach me something, and then we got to bring in Michael Behrens here. But why don't you like Vino Rosso at all?
I just think that the Wood Memorial was just kind of played right into his hands. I think he got a good setup that day, and he ran well. That was his best performance. It was his best figure. And his 2 races since then, he just never really done much, right? I mean, he ran okay in the Belmont, but that's a mile and a half, and he was always meant to be good running a mile and a half, like just kind of as an even type for Todd Pletcher. And so the fact that he got 4th there doesn't really make me want to say, wow, oh, he's great. Now he's cutting back to a mile and an 8, which is much more of a speed favoring type of distance in a mile and a mile and a half.
Or even a mile and a quarter. And it is probably a prep for the Travers as much as anything else. So I'm understanding where you're coming from, but I'm still happy to take him against those 2, Sporting Chance and Tenfold, even after talking about it. Not exactly a stellar running of the Jim Dandy, but it's the Jim Dandy. It'll be fun. We'll have a good time out there. Final word from you, JK, before we bring in Michael Behrens and close out the show today.
Nope. If you're going to be in Saratoga the week of the sale, August 8th, don't forget to email TF. He'll rattle off the email. I think it's podcast@drf.com. We don't have a ton of room, but, I ran into a guy at Saratoga last week that wanted to come. And if you want to come check out the premiere of the World Horse Players Tour TV show, we're going to be doing it after the races on Wednesday, August 8th, in between the sales. The select sale is Monday and Tuesday. The New York bred sale is Thursday and Friday. And we're gonna slide right in the middle there at Fasig-Tipton, right across the street from the track.
It should be a lot of fun. Not a ton of room, like JK says, but if you're a podcast listener, if you're an At the Races with Steve Bick listener, we'll find a way to get you in there. Wine and beer and snacks provided. We may have to pass a hat to raise the money for the AV. We'll let you know about that. I couldn't get a laugh out of you for that. All right.
I giggled. I was muted.
Oh, there you go. We're going to bring in now Michael Behrens. And now I'd like to welcome to the DRF Players Podcast, Michael Behrens of MyRacehorse.com. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing perfect. Hanging out here at Del Mar, so it can't get much better.
Not too bad. I'm actually back in Brooklyn today. We're recording this segment on a Wednesday, watching from the Brooklyn bunker. But, we got the Saratoga vibe going. We got the Del Mar vibe going. Things are good. How are you enjoying your meet so far out there?
It was phenomenal. I mean, with the opening weekend, we had a horse run in. A lot of owners came out. So just a lot of energy. It went better than expected. And, Del Mar always delivers.
So MyRacehorse.com, this is a new kind of ownership opportunity. First and foremost, I'd like you to describe what it's all about.
Yeah, sure. So the concept basically is built on a foundation of micro investing. Just the idea that ownership is super exciting. It's a thrill that a lot of people really, really enjoy. The problem is, obviously the cost associated with it. So we wanted to build a platform that allowed everybody to have the opportunity. And so we launched these micro shares, which are security compliant investments in shares and racehorses, but they just start at 0.1% instead of kind of the larger numbers that you're usually associated with.
The old basis point we learned so much about for various.
There you go, the basis point. That's right.
So for somebody, one of our listeners, perhaps thinking about getting involved in racehorse ownership, where do the shares start?
So right now, we basically will kind of see price points at $100. That's where I have a couple horses on the platform. They go all the way up to $1,000 for some really well-bred, high kind of OBS purchases. But all the information about each horse and the connections and all the financials associated with that horse, it's available at MyRacehorse.com. Or actually, what's been more popular is the MyRacehorse app. So you download it, you see all the information. If you find something that piques your interest, all the offering documentation is there. You can invest in the app, and once it's done, you've got your stake, you've got your ownership.
Where did this idea come from, and why do you think it's important in today's horse racing landscape?
So I've been a fan. I'm what you would call a weekend warrior. I'll listen to your podcast to try to give me an edge once in a while, but I've never been in the business. It was just something that if I had a Saturday to spend time with the buddies, this is kind of how we want to do it. And I looked into ownership. It just wasn't feasible. And with my background in technology and kind kind of a sense for what was changing with regulatory issues around crowdfunding, I really just started to get excited by the idea that between the regulatory changes and technology, there was no reason that more people couldn't get involved. And so we just, we spent about a year working with regulators and lawyers and trying to figure out if it could work. And so I think it's super exciting to just get the fans connected. I think that once you get a kind of a sneak peek at, some of the intimate footage of being at the barn or hearing a trainer's assessment of a workout or hearing a jockey talk about, what went right or wrong on a ride, and that kind of information kind of felt like it was, reserved for a few. It's exciting. And then, you're vested, you get a little equity stake. So if you happen to pick a winner, it can be quite a thrill. So it's just about engaging the fans at a deeper level, allowing to have access to a part of the sport that I think makes it just truly unique and very special.
And I think from what I've heard and just from my own life experience, being involved on the ownership side in any capacity can really help you as a horse player. So many people who listen to this show are looking for ways to improve their game. Now, maybe there's an opportunity to do that dip a toe in the water a little bit, at least in terms of the financial investment, and yet still reap some of the benefit on the knowledge and experience side. Is that part of the idea as well?
Yeah, and a great example that, especially for somebody like me, is really understanding the role of the condition book and, picking the right races and what it means and seeing where horses are placed. And I think as a handicapper, I never really fully appreciated it. I didn't look, at it and with a too much emphasis on the way that I was kind of putting my bets together. And being involved in ownership this last year, you really understand the nuances and the subtleties and the strategic thinking that goes into, placing horses and how trainers and racing managers are approaching the condition book. And it's been a real kind of evolution to my game. And maybe it's small sample size or dumb luck, but it's been doing a lot better this year. And I think that's just one part of the game that I'm proud to kind of have seen improve on my side too.
Well, it's a great point. A lot of times when you're looking at the racing form, the question is, why is this horse in this race? Having a knowledge of what the comparable spots are, you can probably find situations where the horse is in this race because there's no other race. But when you can look at the options and sort of see the spotting of a horse through the eyes of the connections, you're going to get some more information. I think it's going to enhance your experience of the game. I'm sure there's plenty of times a horse just ran that one last time at Saratoga because there wasn't another race and still ended up winning at a big price. It's not like anything else. It's a factor. There's some signal in it. It's not foolproof. But by going through the exercise, I imagine you can't even help but become a better horse player. Can you think, and I'm putting you on the spot here, we didn't go over this beforehand, can you think of a specific instance where that type of condition book handicapping has helped you, or a situation where it might help you?
I think what you mentioned is really kind of what has kind of I've had a little more knowledge about is the fact that there was just not another choice. You see a horse come into a race and, maybe it didn't do as well. And all of a sudden you're thinking maybe we kind of off form cycle a little bit and, were they over ambitious or they have high expectations? And sometimes you'll kind of want to read into it. And I remember seeing horses, be placed in a, maybe a little bit more of a competitive race, a stronger field than you would have thought that they should be running at. And all of a sudden I overplayed that as thinking that they had huge expectations for the horse. And they thought that maybe they had something a lot more special than the past form cycle indicated. The reality was that was the race they can get in. They wanted to keep the horse fit and keep running. And it wasn't anything more than that. And I think I used to overplay that a little bit, and now I kind of take it and look at it with, a different lens. Like you said, it's just one piece of new information. It's not the end all be all, but it helps a little bit.
It helps complete that total picture. Okay, now before we get our listeners super excited, at the moment, this is a California-only endeavor, if I understand that correctly. Do you have plans to expand nationwide?
We do. So the one unique part of this platform is that everything that's being offered are all securities compliant investments. And so we want to make sure that we're able to stick with that and only offer those investments on a platform that indeed are compliant. So we're operating under a California permit now. Our legal team has submitted the appropriate paperwork to the SEC for us to have national approval. best case scenario, we'd love to be able to offer the product nationally before Breeders' Cup. But working with regulators and lawyers, who knows? But we're well on our way. High probability, but at least by the end of the year, these investments will be available nationwide.
And I know we have plenty of California listeners for whom this is an option right away. A couple more questions for you, if you can spare another few minutes. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about yourself and your background, both as a racing fan, how you got into it, and to tell us a little bit more about the time you spent in the tech sector.
Yeah, so I grew up only about 20 minutes from Santa Anita, and junior year in high school, went out to the races one day. It was one of those, perfect settings with the San Gabriel Mountains, and the turf course couldn't have been any greener and brighter. And I just, had an amazing day. Couldn't not cash a ticket. And then kind of being the math analytical guy that I was in school, it just felt like this is something that really I can get into. And so I was hooked from then. And again, like I told you, I haven't been a professional. I went on to a tech career. But always enjoyed handicapping, always enjoyed, if I was going to, put a bet down, it was going to be in the races.
It is one of those places where you can get an edge. You look at other gambling games, and eventually, in most of them, you're going to be giving money back. Here, you have an opportunity to find some sort of discernible edge, whether it's through study of paper, whether it's through technology, and have a chance to turn those odds in your favor and have the money come flowing back to you. How do you use technology, if at all, on the handicapping side, or is handicapping a break from the computer part of the business for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people think that because my background is in tech, that I probably would have been a high kind of computer-based player in algorithms. I actually really just enjoy kind of the replays and trying to find what's not available in the numbers. I feel like, the numbers can be crunched. A lot of really, people that are a lot smarter than I can develop algorithms and kind of find these patterns. But I think the one thing that we still have that's so unique in our sport is that we have visually, we can see things that the paper can't pick up on, the numbers can't see, and the statistical algorithms can't find. And I've always enjoyed kind of being able to try to find that visually and kind of, being able to break away from some kind of pattern recognition.
I love it. And I couldn't agree more. Watching races, you get your own subjective view of the race. A program like DRF's Formulator allows you to capture that right in the lines of the PPs, and all of a sudden you're not looking at the same numbers everybody's looking at. You're putting your own little twist on it. Last question for you. Any runners that you have racing at the moment that you're particularly excited about? Maybe one to share that we should keep an eye on.
So yeah, we have about 6 or 7 horses in the barn right now. I just got back from seeing one that we claimed from Churchill Downs for 40, that 50 bred, perfect soul horse, been running on the turf, nice action, and we think there's some good upside there. So we shipped him out here, 3-year-old colt. He responded really well, and we like him a lot. So just one, I'm excited. He should be making a start in a few weeks, and be interesting to see how he does out here.
I like it. What's the name and whose barn?
So he's Soulbeam. It's with Gennaro Vallejo.
Very nice. How do you go about the process of picking your trainers?
So it's a platform. It's a marketplace. So we're basically looking for people who have really we actually partner with ownership groups first. So one of the things that, it's important to kind of differentiate about our platform versus others is we never own a majority stake in a horse. Our goal really is to actually connect fans with existing ownership groups that they've come over time to really enjoy and appreciate their pedigree, no pun intended, their success that they've had, and allow that connection with those groups. So we're looking for ownership groups that have had success, that like the idea, that want to bring more fans in. They sell us a small percentage of it. And then basically, obviously, we're getting their trainers, we're getting the horse connections that are kind of associated there. But kind of the primary focus for us is really putting a collection of ownership groups that are well respected and proven, and allowing fans to be part of these groups that, they wouldn't have thought possible without these ideas of microshares.
That's very smart. That's a very good idea, and a way to sort of connect these different parts of the industry, specifically the fan and bettor side with the ownership side. Just like the partnerships have helped many people get their own ownership careers underway, this is sort of just taking that funnel, it seems, and extending it out all the farther. I think it's a really cool concept. I want to remind people one more time where they can get the information. MyRacehorse.com, the My Racehorse app sounds like a must. And in terms of publicizing the exploits of the stable, what would you recommend in terms of social media for people to follow?
I think the My Racehorse Twitter handle is great. A good place to kind of see new information, maybe the lighter side of owning a horse and some of the backside footage and some of the kind of fun footage there. So I think that's a neat place to follow us. Facebook also winds up being really good on kind of race day and seeing the owners' experiences. They share a lot there. So both Facebook and Twitter, the My Racehorse handle, I think is a pretty good follow.
Great, and it's just My Racehorse is the way to find it on Twitter.
Underscore at My Racehorse underscore. My Racehorse was taken a little late to the game here. But add the underscore and you'll find us.
Just wanted to make sure folks could find you. Great stuff. Well, thank you. This visit was a little bit of a long time in coming. I apologize for that. It's been a crazy few weeks, but great to finally have you on, and we'll continue to follow your exploits and hopefully get an opportunity to meet up with some parimutuel fun going on at the same time soon.
All right. Sounds good. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, my friend.
All right. Thanks.
And that's it for this week's show. I want to thank Jonathan Kinchin. I want to thank Michael Behrens, producer Craig, Willie Nile, Travis Stone. Most of all, I want to thank all of you for listening. We will be back on Tuesday. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.